Hello, lover. You've just entered a portal of pleasure, power, and deep, unapologetic sensuality. This is Talk Tantra to Me, where we liberate your authentic self, reclaim the wisdom of the body, and let pleasure lead the way. I'm your guide, Leola, tantrika, pleasure priestess, best-selling author of Sacred Sex Ed, and devoted student of the erotic mysteries. I'm here to strip away shame and awaken your most radiant, sacred, and sensual self. Get in, babe. We're conspiring for your most pleasurable life and seducing the world into a greater good. So, take a deep breath with a vocal exhale, relax that delicious body of yours, and let's talk Tantra. Imagine what could happen if you decided every sexual experience got you closer to your highest self and God. That is a quote that comes straight out of my best-selling book, Sacred Sex Ed. Sacred Sex Ed is the sex education that you never had, but that we all desperately need. One that is empowering, honest, and pleasure-based. It is the pathway to a future in which we feel empowered by our desires rather than a slave to them, in which we feel celebratory of our nakedness and vulnerability. Sacred Sex Ed is creating a world where we can openly and emphatically talk about the energy and acts that brought us into it. This book is not diagrams of genitals, nor is it Kama Sutra positions. It's about having deeply fulfilling intimacy, starting with yourself, with your beloved, and with the world. You can pick it up right now on Amazon. Just search Sacred Sex Ed or find the link to purchase it in the show notes. Can't wait to hear what you think. Let's get back to the episode. Welcome to Talk Tantra to Me. It is such an honor to be holding space for this divine knowledge to make its way into your ears and lifestyle. Today I have Yossef in the studio. Yossef is here visiting Austin from LA, doing a bunch of juicy things. I believe he comes here often, but his home base is in Los Angeles, and that's where we originally met. And Yossef is a facilitator in the spaces where self-development meets sexuality and spirituality. So very on brand for this space, very much a kindred soul. And I originally met Yossef in LA. I was traveling through, I think that we came in contact because we both were doing events like the same week in LA. So you came to my event, I came to your event, and it was great because it's rare to be able to, as a facilitator, go to an event and not have to be doing a thing, and just get to fully soak it in, and also to be with someone that I respect as a facilitator as well, that's been doing this for a while, is doing it really in integrity, really beautifully. So yeah, that's how we met. And what I loved is that you introduced your play parties as a self-development workshop disguised as a play party.
That's right.
Which I love. And I was like, yes, this is genius marketing, and same. But what does that mean to you? What kind of self-development do you see is available in these spaces, and particularly something like a play party event?
That's a brilliant question. And I've always been steeped in the world of personal development and spirituality. That's always something that's called me. And as I started exploring more into my sexuality and started going to play parties, I always felt that there was something missing there, because people would typically go and get drunk or get high so that they don't really take a look at all of their fears and insecurities, and then hook up and maybe remember, maybe not remember what happened there. And I love milking the meaning out of every experience that I have. And I want my sexual experiences to be meaningful as well. And for me, meaning comes with self-awareness and transformation. So that's where all of that came from. So when I went to all these play parties and I was like, that's not quite what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'll just make my own. And what I do at Mystery Temple is each one has its own theme, and every theme revolves around a different facet of eradicating the shame from our sexuality. So whether it's sacrilegious and it's all about religious deconditioning.
Yes, love that one.
That
Sacrilegious.
was fun.
Yeah,
Is that the
great.
one? I think you
I
came to
didn't
Wildest
I didn't
Dreams.
go to that one. I was in town near that one tonight,
Yeah.
but I couldn't make it. But yeah, Wildest Dreams was the one I went to.
Wildest Dreams, which is all about like owning and speaking your desires and maybe making them come through in the moment.
Yeah.
And really just claiming your deepest, darkest desires. So each theme is meant to bring a different part of that. And it's a sober event. So you don't get to avoid uncomfortable emotions, but we also make it safe to have every experience there. We have guardians in the space that make you feel safe and are there for emotional support if you need it. One of my favorite testimonials from someone who was like a swinger and came into the space, she said, after she left, that she coming to a play party, she expected to squirt. She just didn't think it would be from her eyes.
Oh, that's great.
And I really love that. I was like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So squirting, female ejaculate, is called amrita, but they say that like tearing up can also be amrita. It's just a different
That's right.
vehicle. So I love that. Yeah. Mystery Temple has the Leola Talk Tantra to Me stamp of approval. It's a great
Thank
community. Yeah, very similar to the play parties that I've hosted in Austin. They start with this incredible like workshop that really like lubricates the space, which is great, and then goes into an open play space. Do most of them follow that same kind of flow?
Yes, they all have about an hour and a half of structured content, which is, the social lubrication. And then in the open space, we typically also have exploration stations where people can, who still need a little bit more hand holding, can be guided. And they usually fit into the theme. So for when we did Oh My Goddess, which is the female-led one, we had a sapphic exploration station, and
Sweet.
Playgasm, which is our silly, playful one, we did oil wrestling. So there's always stations as well.
Okay, cool. When did you start these? How long have you been doing them?
It's just past our 3-year anniversary.
Oh,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's incredible. Beautiful. Okay, sweet. So where does this apply? Like how, first of all, actually, I want to talk to you a little bit more about play parties, because this is like a big thing that I've been to similar play parties where it's just swingers or there's not that depth and that connection. And I just want to honor you as well for the community that you've cultivated, because it really did feel like such a high vibe, amazing community. I ended up knowing like a bunch of people there too, which was really cool. So I just want to tie the bow on that. And then I want to move into, the play party that I went to was all around desires and fulfilling desires. I love to go into that space of talking about the power of expressing our desires, sharing our desires with others, especially those we love, what's available in that in terms of just pleasure possibility, but also self-development.
Sharing our desires, especially with the people that we're close with, can sometimes be so edgy, because we think like, what if they see like this deepest, darkest part of me and they don't like it and then I lose them?
Yeah.
And the reason that that desire lives in a deep, dark space in the first place is because we've created shame about it, probably programming from our childhood. And speaking desires lets the light touch it, and then it doesn't have to be dark and shameful anymore.
Yeah.
And it can be edgy to speak desires with your partner, because it can bring things up with them, actually. And that's why what I'd like to tell people is to separate the desire from the request.
Yes, I love that.
Because your desire deserves to be seen, to be validated, to be valued, to be celebrated. Though whether or not you're going to express it with this person at this time in this way, there's consent that goes into that. There's agreements that go into that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that your desire itself gets to be seen and validated and integrated in that way.
Yeah. So a lot of people, first of all, just aren't even connected to their desires. They don't even know what their desires are. They're suppressing their desires. Maybe they become a slave to their desires. But what happens when we don't address them, or we don't, even on a personal level, let alone with another person?
Every desire that doesn't have a healthy room for expression finds an unhealthy way to be expressed.
Give us an example.
Any repressed desire finds an unhealthy expression. And that unhealthy expression typically goes in two directions. Either through that repression, and then it goes inward, and it starts creating this cycle of shame. There's repression. There's a lack of showing up in the world. And eventually it will try and find its way out in the shadows. So that might be by secretly finding porn around that and then creating a shame cycle around that. It might be by, for in worst cases, by expressing it consensually.
Yeah.
Like coming out in those ways. It's either going to harm someone else and always going to harm the person who's repressing it.
Yeah, I love that you brought up this non-consensual piece as one way that the unhealthy desire comes out, because it's something that I've experienced personally. I've done this and I've caught myself doing it. And I've also been in relationships with this type of dynamic. And I see that oftentimes it ends in some type of lack of faithfulness. Mm-hmm. Would you agree? Like, what do you think is the root of the, like, how does unfaithfulness relate to suppressed desire?
Unfaithfulness is directly correlated to suppressed desire. And it's not even just the suppressed individual desire, but it's also by the normativity that's taught to us by our society as well. Yeah. So I think that, yes, different people might orient towards different ways, and some people might tend to be a little bit more monogamous on a spectrum, and some maybe a little bit more polyamorous on a spectrum. But this idea that we must fit into one bucket or another is crazy. Yeah. And I think everyone lives somewhere along that spectrum.
Yeah.
And the fact that there is no room to even communicate it, because it doesn't mean it needs to be acted on. If you want to have a monogamous relationship, but talk about fantasies, talk about desires, maybe role play them, you can create room for that.
Yeah.
And if there's no room to even talk about it, that's when the unfaithfulness happens. And unfaithfulness means different things to different people. For some people, it's actually having an affair with someone else. For some people, it's even looking at someone else, having a thought, looking at porn or whatever it is. But I think true unfaithfulness with a partner starts with unfaithfulness to yourself.
That's so good. Like, where are you abandoning yourself, not willing to look at it, letting it come out sideways, and that's affecting the people around you in a negative way as well. Yeah, that's really deep. I want to go into this, and you kind of alluded to this already, but it's interesting because people resist sharing their desires with their partners, oftentimes because they're afraid, if I share this, I will lose love. They will judge me. They will leave me. They're not going to be able to handle it, whatever. So it's really this defense mechanism to preserve the relationship.
That's right.
But ironically, what I see happen over and over again is by not sharing it, repressing it, then this distance grows, this wall grows, and you end up in that same result that you were so afraid of, which is that disconnection, like feeling disconnected from your partner. Is that something that you have experienced in your practice?
Well, yeah, it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Around it. It's not just me expressing to my partner, but it's me being a safe space for my partner to share their desires.
Yes.
Because then what if my partner shares their desires and then I'm stuck in this conundrum? This desire is triggering for me, and either I let them step into this desire while I'm still triggered for it, and that creates space between us, or I'm not open to them stepping into that desire, and that builds resentment, and then that creates space between us.
Yeah, and as you had said, there's a difference between the desire itself and actually the request, and I think that's really challenging for people. It's been challenging. I feel like for me to receive I'm very open to receiving people's desires and taking them separately, at least at this stage in my life. But I work with lots of people that are really tense when someone requests or expresses a desire that they perceive as, oh my God, we have to do this, or oh my God, that person's so fucked up, my partner's so fucked up because they want this thing or whatever. So how do you cultivate a environment of curiosity in the relationship that creates space for both partners to feel safe in both expressing the desire, but also responding to the desire? I'm not going to say reacting to the desire, but responding to the desire.
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And I think that the first step is what I sort of mentioned earlier, which is to unlink the desire from the request. Can we just have a conversation about it? Why aren't we triggered when someone says, I want to be an astronaut, even if that will never happen for them, right? We can be in the fantasy of, I would love to shift to this career. I want to imagine living in this different place. What if we move to the farmland? We can fantasize about every area of our life, and it's safe.
Yeah.
But then having a fantasy around our sexuality is some suddenly dangerous territory.
Yeah, it's so taboo, and people hold so much, shame and guilt and probably trauma as well around it. So it's one of those things too that it's like, gosh, we all have to be doing our own individual work around, sexual shadow work
Yeah.
to create that environment. And it can be really tough if one person in the relationship is doing that and sees it and the other is resistant, which happens. Like, that's a very real thing.
I would say that the resistant party probably has some things inside of them that want to be expressed.
Yeah.
And usually when we're triggered by someone else, it's not just about, oh, they want to do all of this and I'm going to be victimized by that. It's they want to do all of that and I haven't done that excavation on my own. And I know there's a part of me that wants to be more expressed and I haven't even looked at it yet, but that's operating unconsciously. So it gets projected, but they're probably craving some type of, at least imagination of the possibilities as well.
And you get to be, in some ways, as the other partner that might be a little bit more curious, open, initiating these conversations. You're actually initiating them into their desire potentially, and also their healing, their self-love. And I like to say you're in some ways being a leader in love in the relationship, which I forgot to mention at the beginning. Yossef's also going to be teaching in Pleasure Priestess, which is my program for women. And it's all about, being a leader in love and walking the tantric path as a woman. But all that to be said, what can we do? I feel like a lot of people that come into my world in work, they're in a relationship. One person is like gung-ho. They're like, this is it, Tantra. I want to explore this with my partner. I really don't want to leave them behind. And the other person is a little bit more hesitant or sometimes just like completely resistant. Like, what would you say to those people? How could they inspire or be a leader in love when there's like that level of potentially repression or just resistance?
I think one of the things that's most important when expressing any desire is adding what's the meaning of it to me.
Yes.
Like, why is this important to me? Not just I want to have a threesome or I want to start going to play parties, but what is it behind that? What does that mean to me? What does that make alive in me? Because we generally are champions for each other and we want the best for each other. And when we just mention, like the fantasy, we might not see that. But when we go behind it and it's like, this will be super healing for me because of my repression from my childhood, or I feel like I have so much that's yet been expressed, and you start sharing those things, there's more possibility. And the other thing is that everyone needs to have their buy-in. It's funny that you say that because in my work, when I work with couples, it's almost always the case. It's the woman that's coming to do the work and the man's dragging behind her. And
I get the opposite a lot, actually.
You get the opposite?
I do.
That's funny.
I get both, but I get a lot of the opposite.
That's hilarious. So the man usually, like, I'll ask him, why are you here? And he goes, oh, I want to make my wife happy and I want to take care of her and whatever she needs. And I never leave it alone at that. It's like, what would you like to get out of this?
That's right.
Yeah, we need to find out what is your buy-in. And there's always something there. And because my perspective is, they say how you show up somewhere is how you show up anywhere. And particularly in your sexuality, it's like a microcosm of everything else. And everything that's showing up gets magnified in our sex life. And when I can help them link that if there's a part of their sexuality they're being repressed in, and help them see how it's showing up somewhere else.
Yeah.
If they haven't expressed or examined their dominance and their submission, how's that showing up in their work?
Yeah.
Right? So how can we find the buy-in that the exploration of your sexuality helps you become a more holistic person, helps you grow as an individual, helps you show up better in every aspect of your life?
I agree. I find that so important. And I love what you mentioned about finding the deeper meaning, because there's always, like, the desire is very rarely about the surface level desire itself. There's almost always a layer or multiple layers beneath it. Almost the more trivial or the more you might judge or think your desire is wrong, the deeper that well usually is. And just on a personal level, it can be really powerful to sit with, what is my desire? Why? And what is the deeper longing beneath that? And that's not to say that just because you find out the deeper longing beneath that, then you can let go of the surface level desire and then go heal your inner child or find self-love or whatever the deeper piece is. But it does help you bring that to your partner with a sense of heart that inspires compassion and more curiosity as well.
That's right. And it makes sure that when you then, if and when you go and explore that, you have a better chance at getting to what you really wanted.
Yes.
Rather than just, then you had the threesome and then there's like maybe some fallout from that and you didn't even get what you were looking for. So
Yeah.
let's excavate it. Let's find the meaning behind everything.
I love that. I love that. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about here. Oh, the piece on finding your buy-in. Yeah, if you can find a way to make it juicy for them, whether it's like find their why or their meaning, or also just like, I don't know. I think that for me, one thing that I see happen a lot is especially actually my female clients, because I do also have female clients that are like, my partner doesn't get it. But they'll be like, I really want him to touch me like this certain way. I really want him to be a yes to Tantra date night and create these beautiful rituals and this time for devotion. And my number one piece of advice is create it for him. Give him the blueprint, give him the transmission. And it becomes so much more likely that that's going to happen for you as well. And no one's going to say no to your sweet, loving touch, right? So what are the ways that you can make things really juicy based on what you're learning on your path as well?
Yeah. And with every relationship, they say, how many people need to change the relationship?
One.
Just one. Just one.
Just one.
Just the one. It's the one who's more aware also, typically.
It's so true, though.
Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah. People don't realize that. Like, you clean up your side of the street and just see what happens. Just see stop trying to control them. Stop trying to fix them. Just focus on it's time and time again. It's gold.
Yeah.
So gold. Okay. I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more about you and your journey, getting into this world and work. Like, what have been the impacts for you of stepping into conscious kink? What has been your self-development?
With conscious kink specifically, it's been the most radical, most embodied type of parts work that I've ever done.
Okay, cool.
Like if you're familiar with internal family systems or any of those parts practices, it's just this basic idea that there's all different parts of us. There's the wounded child and there's protectors and there's all these different facets. And we're not usually aware of all the conversations happening inside of us. But because conscious kink is so archetypal and you're able to step into a particular role, first of all, dom and sub, and then all the subcategories within it. You could be a master, you could be a slave, you could be a daddy, you could be a baby, you could be a pet, you can be a king, you can be a victim, you can be an abuser, you can be sadistic, you can be masochistic. You find all these parts, and every single facet, I think, lives in every single person.
The capacity, at least.
The capacity for it.
Yeah.
Yes. And we don't always act on it, and neither should we necessarily on all the parts, but they live inside of us. And like what I said, whatever doesn't get expressed becomes repressed, finds unhealthy ways out. Suddenly you blow up in an argument and you're like, oh my God, I don't even know who that was. That's because that part has never had voice, never had life. And kink brings that to life. So from a personal perspective, I'll give you one example. When I was a kid, I was very emotional, very moody. And I also was, at the time, like the shortest kid in the grade through elementary school. And I get picked on a lot by bullies. And it started releasing this like rage in me where I would become violent to protect myself, or very biting with my words, so that I could like find the exact button that would be like a stab wound to someone, because that was my way of protecting myself. And it's a way that I lived for a while. And as I got older, and was born in Canada, and you have to behave and be polite, like I pushed all those parts aside, because it's like, no, you have to be nice, you have to be polite, you have to be kind and think of others, and all that's important. And all that just went away. Like I just like pushed all that down. But as I pushed that down, it's like I started living a more muted life, because I was pushing certain emotions down, like everything went down.
Yeah.
And I remember early in my kink days, when I was asked to do humiliation scenes and severely sadistic scenes. And like, I'm like, oh, that's not, I just want to be like a nice sensual dom. I don't want to do that stuff.
Yeah.
But being called into that role was this primal awakening of these early parts, and it was so easy for me to consensually eviscerate the person before me, and to recognize that even the violent part, even the mean, sadistic part, can bring pleasure and can bring healing to the person before me. All of my parts have value when used in the right
Oh,
way.
that's going to make me emotional. It's so sweet.
Hmm.
I love that story. Thank you so much for the vulnerability and authenticity in sharing that. If you're a woman who considers herself spiritually awake, deeply devoted, already walking your path with intention, then listen up. I know you've manifested, meditated, sat in ceremony, you know the language of ritual and reverence. And still, you know your pleasure and sensuality hold even more possibility. Because erotic embodiment is about moving, speaking, creating, and leading from the deep intelligence of your womb, your heart, and your pussy. The Pleasure Priestess Initiation is an invitation into that next octave. This is a year-long tantric mystery school for women to be initiated into the sacred art of orgasmic leadership, to reclaim your dark feminine gifts, heal the sisterhood wound, and seduce the world into a greater good. This is where we do life and love together online, in ritual, month after month, and of course in the flesh for a juicy in-person immersion. Inside, you'll explore potent Tantra practices that are meant to be lived and adapted to share with your beloved, your sisters, and maybe even with the world through your own offerings, community, and facilitation. You'll be held in a field of high-level support with guest sexperts, medicine women, and embodied leaders who are already walking this path alongside you, as well as 24/7 access to our electric WhatsApp temple to stay connected, supported, and in celebration of this tantric life. The Pleasure Priestess is open for enrollment now to start at the end of April. But as soon as you join, you get access to over 100 hours of previous Tantra trainings, resources, and the vault of our past guest teachers. This is an initiation into your power, into your pleasure, into the woman you know you came here to be. Click the link in the show notes to claim your seat in the temple, or visit us at www.talktantratome.com/pleasure. This is great. This whole concept of the parts work, like I feel like that needs to be a huge school or something,
Yeah.
like conscious kink meets parts work, or parts work through conscious kink, because that's so my experience as well. I would have never intellectualized it that way, but that's point blank exactly what I've experienced as well, and also supported other people in, is, you know, finding those parts within them, like the saboteur, like the teenage boy, you know, and being able to support them in finding a healthy outlet that isn't, you know, wreaking havoc on their personal
Am I allowed
lives.
to ask you to share one of the parts that you found in yourself?
Yeah, let's see. I don't have one that's right on the surface. I need to like really feel into it and think about it. I mean, it's definitely there. I was thinking about a client specifically when you were
Yeah.
talking about that. I mean, I think that a really big piece for me is definitely around control. Like a really big piece for me is around how, when I and where I grew up, I felt so disempowered and out of control that I really stepped into this more dominant space in my life as well as in relationships. And really being able to see where that was limiting me and my ability to experience pleasure and surrender to having a more orgasmic experience in the bedroom and also in life. So kind of the controller, I guess, has
Yeah.
been one that I'm constantly working to
I bet a lot
integrate.
of people like being controlled by you
Yeah.
consensually.
Yeah. And I think that there's another piece too
Yeah.
where, like, I love men. I think men are awesome. And I've also been deeply hurt by men.
Mm.
And seeing the part of me that can get a little online when I get to dom men in certain ways is also really interesting, to feel that that wave of, ooh, like this is my opportunity to get revenge, and like just noticing that vengeful dark feminine shadow within me, but finding, you know, again, consensual ways to explore that piece. And yeah, I mean, when I've worked with men though, mostly I'm more in that like mommy dom
Yeah.
role, which is more nurturing and supportive. But yeah.
And those are great parts too. We all
They're
need
all
our
great.
inner child reparented, and some of us need love, and some of us need discipline because we need what we didn't get.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So true. Okay, loved this personal story. So you had mentioned, when we were kind of preparing for this, that you're working a lot now with couples. Do you bring this, like this parts work, to them, or how does that show up?
The parts work is definitely available, but it's not stage one.
Okay, great.
Before we get to the like psychological healing part of kink, we need to understand the basics of kink. Also, typically, what couples are most looking for is to reawaken passions and explorations in their bedroom.
Can I
So,
pause for a second?
yeah,
Do people know that? Do people know that they're going to you for reawakening their passion, or do they think like, I just want to learn how to spank my partner? Out of
I get
curiosity.
both types.
Okay.
I get some people are like, teach me kink, that like,
Okay.
or like teach my partner kink. More likely, like
Yeah.
I've done it,
Yeah.
teach my partner. So I'll tell you the two types. I either get
Give me your
these are
client
these
archetypes.
are two of the biggest couples archetypes, and I work with
Okay.
singles as well. But the two biggest couple archetypes is a woman who's already kinky. She
Okay.
knows it. She's probably most of the time like really powerful in her business
Uh-huh.
and was craving submission.
Yeah.
She wants her partner to be more dominant, and she tries to tell him how to do it. And when she tells him how to do it, then she's doming him.
Yeah.
So they come to me. She gives me the keys so that she doesn't have to run the show
Awesome.
anymore. So I help to bring her from a dominant into submissive state, to help her recognize that she needs to be active in her own submission,
Yeah.
not just rely on someone else to bring her there. And then I help give him the hard and soft skills to become more dominant.
Mm-hmm.
And then I pass the keys to him, and then they get to go on their way and have their journey. So that's one of my favorite ways. The other one is couples that come to me and say, oh, we want to reignite passion in our relationship, and
Yeah.
they're looking for some type of polarity work. And I just prefer, I came from the tantric world before kink, and I prefer kink to tantra in terms of polarity work because of the non-gendered terminology around dom and sub, and the fact that it's about holding space and expressing yourself in the space and taking turns in that leadership. And it creates less stories for people around what it means to be man enough or woman enough or anything like that. And kink has more structure, I feel, than tantra. Like I have a 8-page negotiation document that I
Hot.
give my clients and have my
Yeah.
couples share as well, to fill out with all the yeses, all the nos, all of the feelings they want to feel, and everything that
Yeah.
goes into it. So using the very similar modality to create polarity, to teach kink specifically, or to move into parts work once they have the basics of what it means to hold space.
Yeah. The reason that I asked specifically about why people come, like, do they know that they're coming to reignite
Yeah.
passion? Because I think that one of the common tropes that we see is people think, it goes back to that idea of like, there's always a layer beneath the desire that people think. It's like, I think that I want a threesome, but really there's an emotional feeling
Yeah.
state that I'm wanting to have, and it's connection with my partner or whatever it happens to be. And so I was just curious because I think that, yeah, a lot of people start exploring BDSM, Swingerland, and Tantra and conscious kink as well, going into it from like, things are dry in
Yeah.
our relationship and we want to spice things up. And they think that it's going to be all these crazy tricks, that are going to spice things up, but it's really about the connection a lot of the time. Would you agree?
It's the communication,
Yeah.
it's the energetic containment of it, and some tricks.
Some tricks.
And some tricks and fun.
The
and
tricks,
tools.
yeah, the tricks create like a structure for
Yes.
the juice, the energy to flow, which
Yeah.
is great. We love that. What is one of your favorite ways to just do like a cash injection of polarity into a partnership?
So I like to teach it through like an embodied meditation, actually.
Okay.
That involves finding your energy. So one of the best tricks to move from like a dominant into a submissive mode and back and forth is where in your body you carry your energy. So a dominant person carries their energy in the triangle between their shoulders and their heart. It brings your shoulders out.
Okay.
It deepens your breath. You find you widen your stance. You find that your energy starts filling the room inside around you. You're holding the space.
Okay, cool.
The submissive triangle is between the hips and the genitals. When you bring all of your energy down there, you notice you start going more inward. You start slouching more. You feel more vulnerable. And one of the easiest ways is that somatic exploration of where do those parts live in our body. I love using somatics because you can talk about things intellectually, but to experience it in your body is a big deal. So then I work with couples, I bring them each into their own state. I also always recommend and almost insist that every dom have a submissive experience as well. So I'll typically create the submissive experience for both partners to feel it, and then have them take turns dominate each other.
Okay.
And in this case, I'm not going all the way through the scene with the whips and the chains and the ropes, just what it means to hold each other in that space. For the dominant to hold the submissive energetically with some light grounding touch in the space. And that does wonders.
How does it do wonders? Like how do people react that think that they're one or the other, dominant or submissive?
What happens in that space is, first of all, a nervous system co-regulation.
Cool.
Where both people start syncing to each other. And then from there, there's an entrainment of the submissive to the dominant, where you start noticing the deeper the connection becomes, the more polar it is. The submissive's breath start following the dominant's breath. Their heartbeat starts syncing to the dominant's heartbeat. To a point, like it can start when they're touching, and then you can create more and more space, and there's still a synchronicity. They're to a point where if you're really synced up and the dominant suddenly holds their breath somewhere else in the room, the submissive will suddenly hold their breath. It starts creating this energetic entrainment between the both of them, where one person's clearly leading and one person's clearly following. But to follow, there needs to be the safety, which is why nervous system regulation comes first.
Yeah.
Once you have a regulated nervous system, you can really dysregulate the nervous system in all kinds of fun ways, through spanking and slapping and gagging and fucking and whatever it is.
Yeah.
But if you bring that part first before the person feels safe, that feels like violation. It feels like torture.
Yeah, it takes them out of their zone of tolerance instead of playing with those edges.
That's right.
Right. So what is the benefit then of them switching, right? Like, what is the benefit of someone that's dominant being submissive? Like, why would you say you make them do that, right?
Reasons. So, first of all, I think that, and everyone gets to choose their own path in life, but mine's the idea that we should explore all the flavors and all the dynamics and find all the parts inside of us. Both those parts, the dominant and the submissive, live inside of you. When you're running a team at work, you should bring your dom. And when you're going to a massage therapist to get treatment, you should bring your sub. You don't want to boss them around and nothing, right? There's a time and a place for every part. So experience all the parts. But the reason I do it in relationship is usually the person who's craving to be submissive, when I put them in the dom role, they're like, that's so hard. I'm like, and I want you to remember that and appreciate the hard work that your dom is doing for you. And when the dom who wants to be dominant and has an experience of submission, they're like, oh, it's hard for me to let go. It's like, so you see how challenging it is to really trust and to drop in. And that's the work that your sub is doing. So appreciate that.
Do you see a lot of people become switches, meaning they start to not have such a preference or begin to enjoy both poles?
I think the majority of people are very happy in their comfort zone of what they are.
Okay.
But I think some people just want to stay in that zone, and that's fine. Choose your own adventure in life. I think if you have like a more wide experience of time in the work, then you'll probably gain some curiosity around it. But there's plenty of doms out there that I see that they're like, I'm only dominant, I'm never submissive. I don't trust them.
I hear you on that. I would be sus as well. My little notch in my belt is making people switches. At least a lot of my partners have come in very dominant. And as I mentioned, like I wouldn't say that I'm a dom. I would actually say that I prefer to be in the more submissive role, but I also like being in a dominant role, and it's a very natural energy within me. But I've had lots of male partners that I've dated that have said, I'm dominant. I don't want to be submissive. And then I say, well, like, do you want to just try it, one time? And then they realize, oh my God, this is amazing. I love being tied up. And they get this opportunity to really relax. And I think that that's obviously another really common type of archetype that begins to explore kink, and specifically goes to like dominatrixes in
Yes.
like penthouses, and like they're these CEOs that are now like on their hands and knees with an apple in their mouth and a dildo in their ass because
They're
they
dominant
don't
all day.
they're dominant all day. So it's really interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I've only seen you in your dom, because every time you're leading an event, you're leading
That's
a class,
true.
that's you and your dom. And I can always tell a dom, or the dom side of a person, it's because they get off on the reaction they get from other people.
I do.
Yes, exactly.
I absolutely
I see when
do.
you do something in a room or to a person, and suddenly they go like, and then you just get this biggest smile on your face, and you get off on it.
Called out.
Yes, reaction junkies. That's what doms
It's
are.
really true. And I also think for me, I want to submit in a place that I feel very safe and I really, really trust someone, and I really like build that. Like to me, it takes a little bit more of a relationship for me to get to that place where I'm like really wanting to and able to fully submit. But it's so good when it happens. It's so good.
Same.
It's so good. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's way better than doming at the end of the day. And I feel like I probably spend more of my time in the dominant role, but I naturally desire that submissive role quite a bit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you're really good at what you do, then it's hard to turn your mind off if someone is not doing as good a job as you would have in that position.
It's so naughty.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about you? I would say you're dominant leaning as well, or?
I think my nature is switchy. And also in terms of my erotic blueprint, I'm a shapeshifter. I'm not just into kink. I love all the things. I'm like a different person every day is what I feel like. But definitely, I would say that I am more dom leaning. It's definitely what people want from me more. So
That's
there's
what
that.
they pay you for.
That's what they pay me for. Not many people are paying me for my submission. And like you, I'm more likely to submit to someone where I feel that they have a strong dominant field and that they have care for me. Then I'm more willing to let go and go there.
Yeah. Do you feel like you get to explore that a decent amount?
Every once in a while I get to do that. And of course, in my partnership, I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in a kinky way, but we're both able to really hold that space for each other. There's not a lot of people that I completely melt into the way I melt with her.
Yeah, we love that.
Yeah.
We love.
Yeah.
So how would you say that maybe exploring the other parts of ourselves, specifically the dom and the sub? Obviously, we have all of these parts within us, but how can exploring the parts of ourselves that we particularly don't identify with support us outside of intimacy and sexuality in the bedroom?
Yeah, so I hinted it a little bit earlier, but this is usually what actually gets the guys excited about it, is when I'll teach them some framework about dominance and submission, and they'll recognize a little bit more of what it takes to be a better leader at work. And I hinted at one of the concepts of like how you need to create safety before you can instigate and get more out of someone, right? Mm-hmm. Like you need to like hold them before you spank them. And it's the same with everything. You've got to create this field where the person feels seen, where they feel held, and when they feel safe. And once you've created that, then you're able to elicit more from them.
Great.
In your field. So even when it comes to like employees, if your employees coming to work and they're afraid of you, you're only going to get so much out of them. You'll get it from a fear-based place. They're not going to be at their full capacity. They're not really going to show up. But if you create a safe work environment where everyone knows that they can express themselves, where everyone knows that their needs are taken care of, then you can command more from them. And that's the difference between commanding, demanding, and requesting. Demanding and requesting often have like a sense of disempowerment. Like I'll ask you to do that. That's soft. Demanding is also I'm being extra hard because I actually don't believe that you're going to listen to me. But commanding comes from a place not of control, but of power. So when you find your Dom voice, that's the voice of command. A command is something that's told very directly and very dispassionately. Like if you yell at someone, get down on your knees, that's a demand.
Yeah.
Or will you please get down on your knees? That's a request. Get down on your knees is a command.
The way that the room shifted when you said it that way is just everything.
That's right.
I mean, you're a professional, so that's why they pay you.
Yeah.
That's why they pay you to get those codes. I love it. Okay, I want to start kind of landing the plane, but I just want to see if there's anything else on this topic of like polarity and these roles, dom, sub, conscious kink, that we want to talk about before we.
I think another important thing to talk about from like the bigger perspective, the global perspective, is this idea that we live in a world of power dynamics and they're inescapable. And the majority of the power dynamics that we live in are non-consensual. We have people leading us that not all of us chose. And that exists oftentimes in our place of work. It exists oftentimes in the idea that men have more power than women, and people who are rich have more power than people who are poor. And this exists in all kinds of facets of society. We are constantly in a scene that isn't of our choosing or designing.
Yep. That's the universe.
That's the universe.
That's planet Earth, baby.
Yes. So
welcome.
That's like the mid-range of looking at things.
Yeah.
Then from like the upper range of looking at things, if from a spiritual perspective, is before I was born, when I was in that liminal space, I designed a scene for myself.
Hot.
I negotiated a scene with God, with the universe, to create over the course of my life. And to understand that everything that I'm choosing, all my dominant and submissive experiences through life, was part of the scene to help me have the experience that I would crave.
Have you read Journey of the Souls?
I haven't.
It's so good. And that's what it reminds me of. Obviously, it's not a conscious kink book at all, but it's about what happens to our souls after we die, and then how are we choosing our next life. And yeah, it's very much that. It's very much that, this negotiation. And this
we have the negotiation, we have the scene, and then we have the aftercare where we reflect on the scene that we had.
Exactly.
In a nice cozy container with our cosmic tea at the end of the journey. And then we pick the next scene for our next journey that will be right for us.
Yeah.
So you have that big picture, and then you have the 3D reality, or whatever it is you want to call it, of the non-consensuality. And so by designing a scene, you're doing the as above, so below. You're saying, I'm going to choose again the power dynamic I want to step into. Okay. I'm going to create that experience for me for the next hour and a half. And then you're matching that cosmic scene that you created ahead of time, because you've brought choice into it, and you've brought consent into it. And by doing that work, you become more in alignment of what your soul really wants.
I love that you brought this in. This is really my shit, this like psychological play here. You had mentioned that a lot of these power dynamics are non-consensual, which is true. And also we have power in many of them that we don't realize, but we're just unconsciously in a power dynamic. How can we be more conscious in how we interact with the world and the people around us to realize, like, am I unconsciously doming someone, submitting in a way that's not actually aligned to what I want to do and who I want to be?
That's excellent, because we have a lot of these discussions in society, but I don't think to the depth that they could go to. We talk about this idea that there are power dynamics, and that people have privilege, but privilege exists in so many different ways. Like, if you're a really hot person, you have privilege around the people around you because you have power over them, because they'll do things for you that they wouldn't do for someone else. And it's the same if you have power, if you have money, if you have everything else. And I think acknowledging the power is important, It doesn't mean that we have to give up our power. It's not like this tall poppy thing that we should cut ourselves short, but we should be aware of it and we should acknowledge it in our interactions with others of how we hold power over each other, and then choose it if that's what we want. If we want the power dynamic and to play with the power dynamic, that's fine. If you have one partner if you want to do like a sugar baby, sugar daddy relationship, but both people are acknowledging the power dynamic and enjoying the power dynamic, and it's chosen by both and it continues being chosen by both, that's great. But that's not how it is most of the time. It's this exchange that both people feel used. It's transactional. And then, and most people don't even acknowledge that they're a sugar baby, sugar daddy. They're just like a hottie who's with a rich person, and they don't talk about the fact that that's what's actually attracting them to each other. And there's nothing wrong because they're just different types of energy. But acknowledging it gives it choice, gives it life.
Self-awareness, really.
Self-awareness.
We see, I really resonate with what you had mentioned about having this power dynamic, having privilege of a certain degree. And then I think that there's also this thing that humans love to do where they love to victimize themselves and get really like, that's another thing to notice is like, where am I disempowering myself or choosing to be a victim or a submissive in this situation? So I'm just planting that there as something to notice in yourself or in the world as well, like people doing that.
That's right. Always see both sides. My spiritual background came from the world of Kabbalah, and there was like a Kabbalist, and I might butcher this a little bit, but he said to always carry 2 notes, one in each pocket. And one is something like the whole world was created just for you. And the other one is you are nothing but ashes and dust. One is the dom side of you, and one is the sub side of you, and they're both true. The whole world is created for us, and we're nothing but ashes and dust. Be aware of both of those. Hold that paradox together as you move through the world.
This deeply relates to where I wanted to go next, which was I've been kind of in this this season of Year of Devotion. I was doing this little event for women about that and talking about, God is your dom, and they're like, that's the question really, is like, are we the dom of our lives? Is God the dom of our lives? Like, and I think I know the answer just based on what you just said, which I resonate with, but is God the dom? Who's the dom in this situation?
Who's God? Are we not God already?
Exactly. I love it.
Well, it's funny. There was a prayer that I've been saying for myself since I was as young as I could imagine. I don't even know how this came to my mind, but it was always looking to originally like a non-religious God, but just some kind of like big figure, and being like, I want you to work through me. I don't have any idea or desire of where I should be except to be a perfect vessel of your desire and doing. And that's something that I take into my doming today. When I'm doming, when I'm really remembering to tune into it, I'm always in submission to something bigger. Because the best I can offer someone when I'm not doing that is my complete self-mastery, which is not bad. But when I'm able to make that prayer, I can offer them my self-transcendence. I'm able to offer them a link to everything that's beyond the possibility of what I could ever master, and let that work through me in the work. And then I better serve them while I'm in submission to something bigger.
It also takes so much of the pressure off, at least for me. It's like, this isn't about me. This is about something bigger that wants to move through me. And I've done the work to get to a level where I can be a decent enough filter for God, goddess, whatever. But it's something I do. I'm very similar. Like, even before this conversation, I took a moment, I took a breath, I called in God to be here to facilitate the most powerful transformation. And I think it worked. I think this was great.
I feel it. It's right here in the room with us.
I have one final question. What are you most proud of?
That's a great question.
It's a weighted one. It's heavy, but something was telling me to ask it.
I'm most proud of, this is a big thing to throw out at the end of the conversation. But I grew up in a cult, and there was a lot of bad shit and toxic shit happening in that cult. Leaving it made me think like, I never want to be that way. I never want to take advantage of power that way. And part of my pendulum response to that is like, I don't want to do anything big. I don't want to be in power. And I think what I'm most proud of, it's not something that I've achieved, but it's a tightrope I keep walking of not denying the world of a part of me because I'm afraid of the power, but not using that power to prescribe to others how they should be, but rather to be an example for them and inspire them to find the leadership in themselves.
I have so many. Yeah, you said it perfectly. This is a big thing to throw out at the end of the conversation. But how did we go a whole hour without talking about your cult background? I don't know. Like, I'm like, wait, what?
It's like a blip in the past at this point.
But my husband has a very similar relationship to power, and he would say leadership specifically. He had a similar, didn't come from a cult, but had a similar story of resisting his innate gift of being an incredible leader because of his experience with certain leadership. And he had a journey on reclaiming that.
And it's always those people who are the ones like, please, you take the lead.
Please take power.
Exactly.
Dear God, we need
people who
you.
Don't want it.
And if you're listening to this, we're calling you out.
That's
we're calling you out right now. Where can people find you, support you, know you?
Best places to find me, if you spell my name right, is all you need to do, which isn't always so easy. But I'm yossefsagi.com or Yossef Sagi on Instagram. Are we going to
we'll
put
link
it down
that
there in the show notes? Those are the best places to find me and see where we go from there.
Yeah, and for those that are interested in Pleasure Priestess, Yossef will be one of our amazing guest teachers. So we'll be diving deeper, probably with some more like interactive practice in the program around some of these concepts of conscious kink and maybe incorporating some of these parts work, because I love that so much.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this sacred and sexy conversation. And we'll catch you next time on Talk Tantra to Me. Ta-ta. Over the years, I've been approached by many pleasure-based companies to promote their products, but I've only ever said yes to one person because I genuinely love these products so much, as well as the woman behind them. Wands, spelled W-A-A-N-D-S, is a crystal pleasure toy company, and they have been a part of my Tantra journey since the beginning. And they're not just toys, they're truly activators and beautiful sacred pieces of art that foster deep self-connection, pleasure, and transformation. These 100% pure crystal wands and yoni eggs help you unlock your body's wisdom, clear energy blockages, and amplify your pleasure, whether alone or with a partner. And it's not just about the products. For me, it's about the heart and the soul behind them. And the owner, Courtney, I absolutely adore her. She's been so generous to offer you, my beloved listeners, an exclusive 15% off with the code Leola, Leola. So if you're ready to honor your sacred sexuality and awaken your sensual energy, stepping into a pleasure-filled life, head to wands.com. Again, WAANDS, 2 A's, and use code Leola for 15% off. And you can always find the link directly in the show notes. Trust me, you're going to thank me later.